Man, so TJ, I'm excited to chat with you. We're actually heading your way 4th of July over to Watercolor. I love that part of Florida.
That's awesome. 4th of July is my birthday, actually.
Oh, is it really? Nice, man. Born on
Yeah,
the 4th of July,
all-American boy.
like Tom Cruise.
That's right. That's right.
I
Yeah,
love it, man.
watercolor. I live about 10 minutes from watercolor.
Okay, nice. That's awesome. And you live there full time?
Yeah. Yep. I live there full time on the west end of 30A. So we ride our bikes over to watercolor all the time and go hang out over in that section of the world a good amount.
Fantastic. Well, let's hook up when we're out there. We're out there for a week, that 4th of July week. It's our third time going. I love it.
It's beautiful for sure. It's
Yeah,
busy, but it's beautiful.
it's busy. Yeah, and the home prices, how are they doing now?
I mean, your sections of the world like watercolor and seaside, they stay steady just because they're iconic, and their rental revenues can consistently stay the same because of, the environment that you have there is just so catered to that. But across the whole, our coastline, call it, your investor market's really struggling at the moment. Fortunately, we're pretty full faceted in regards to land acquisition or new construction or primary residences. But a big bulk of our business is investment product, and money ain't cheap right now. So it's definitely not moving like it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it was so funny. The first time we went down there was, I think, let's see, 3 years ago. And like we stayed in this rental house, which was beautiful. Like all the watercolor houses are awesome. And I think it was at that point like a little under 2 million. And I was like, that's crazy. And then we came back the next year and that same house was like 3 million. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's even crazier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, there's stuff on 30A alone that's, broken that 2,500, 2,800 a foot range. So it's, we're competing with the Californias and the New Yorks of the world, price per foot wise, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But it's beautiful out there. Well, that's a great place to sell real estate, TJ. Is that where you're from?
I'm from Pensacola, so about 70 miles west. But I've lived here since 2011. So I've been here for a good amount of time, but lived on this coastline my entire life. I lived in Orlando for a while. I went to UCF in Orlando. And then after I graduated, came back and jumped straight into the real estate and development world right out of college. And here we are.
That's awesome, man. Sounds good. Well, congrats on all your success. First and foremost, we want to get you some referrals. So we've already talked about, where you sell real estate. So folks, if you're watching this, make sure you send all your agent to agent referrals over to TJ, but would love to kind of hear about, your business and things like that. But I'd love to start with do you remember your first transaction ever?
I actually do. And what's funny is my real name is Tristan. And so I spent about 4 hours with this guy, and he was really excited. He was like, "Hey, man, I just need to come bring my wife back, and I think we're ready to roll. We're gonna purchase this house." I was like, "All right, great, man. I'll be around." I was actually sitting in a model home at the time, and so like 5 minutes later, he comes walking in, and he was like, "Hey, man, you gave me this girl Tristan's card. I need your card." And I was like, "Well, that's me. I'm Tristan." He was like, "Oh, wow. Well, sorry about that. I guess I now have to buy a house from you." And I'm like, "That's right. Yeah, you do."
That's
But
that's
I've gone by
awesome.
TJ my entire life, but my business cards said Tristan, so it was funny that whole deal happened. But yeah, that was my first transaction. Was
That's
being
so
called a
funny,
girl.
man. And so TJ, how much did you earn your first year in real estate? The reason I ask that is, a lot of people see top agents and you're in the news and you're getting all these accolades, and no one really realizes that everyone started from zero. Everyone started from somewhere. And, that first year, most people struggle. No one comes out. Most people don't come out of the gate making $1 million. Are you stressed out juggling? Oh, shoot, I really can't juggle. Now my dog's gonna grab all of it. Okay, listen, this video is brought to you by All-Star VAs. Are you stressed out juggling your calendar, your email, all of the tasks you have to do, plus your personal life, which doesn't leave you any time to actually do the stuff that you got into real estate to do, like going on client appointments, negotiating deals, all the fun stuff? Look, if that's you, I have a solution for you. My team of all-star virtual assistants helps me do all of those things so that I can do the stuff that I love doing. And we can install an all-star virtual assistant for you in your business Whether that's an executive assistant, a social media manager to blow up all your accounts, a marketing manager, an inside sales associate, a customer care manager, and plenty of other positions starting as low as $4 an hour. All you got to do is go to allstarvas.com, book a call with our team. We'll tell you all about the program and see if it's a fit for you. All right, back to the video.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't sell a house until probably 5 months down the road. My first year, I think I made $68,000, but then skyrocketed after that. Once I kind of found my niche and understood. I mean, I was 20, just had turned 22. So I had never bought a house in my life. I had never really, I grew up with my dad being a builder. So, I mean, I was on job sites and stuff, but the acquisition of real estate was still foreign to me. And so I was just kind of BSing my way through it to see how it would work. And it really became a fascinating thing to me. And so I really started studying the game and wanting to be a part of every facet of it. Became really passionate about it. And so, that next year, really, I honed in on my craft and kind of kept things moving.
Yeah, that's awesome. But listen, 68,000 first year is actually nothing to sneeze at. I mean, I think I was talking to tons of top agents who were like, "Yeah, man, I sold one house or two houses or whatever." So that's that's still really good. So that's awesome. Congratulations on that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, like once again, though, I had a captive audience. I was working for a developer, so I was in a model home a lot of the times, so that really helps.
Right.
And a lot of new agents ask me, if I was going to get into real estate, what should I do? And as much as, I like training new agents and bringing them on my team, new construction, I mean, if you go work and sit on site, you really learn a lot of the craft that you wouldn't know if you didn't do it. And you get a pretty strong education because you get a transactional volume where you see all different loan types, all different bankruptcies, divorces, anything that can come and be thrown at you that you have to navigate through. You see a lot of that. And so you kind of get a quick education in what you need to do to be able to perform, when you get in the general.
Yeah, I think that's actually great advice, TJ. Like, because I think it's so important for new agents to see deals, because otherwise they come in and, maybe their first 6 months, they see one deal or two deals or whatever. So you're not seeing all that stuff. But for the same reason, I always advise people take a look at teams also. It just gives you another avenue. So awesome. So first year, 68K new construction. And then let's fast forward to now. I'd love to hear about kind of your setup of your business now, what that all looks like and what you're focused on.
Yeah, so we've got a high-powered team on the coast. We're the number one team in Florida. We do about $300 million a year in production, average about 500 transactions a year or so. But with that said, we blossomed when we came to EXP, to be frank with you, because we could kind of take that corporate veil off of me and Nathan, my business partner, and not be a ward to DBPR, all the onboarding, all of our MLS boards. EXP kind of took that on so we could grow. So, when I first started with Nathan, I was an agent for him. And that was like 9 years ago. And I really honed in on just my past backlog that I had from new construction sales. And it went really well, but my goal was to create a development side of the business that was just like what I used to do for D.R. Horton, Holiday Builders, and some other different developers.
Yeah.
But do it in a way that was very buyer-centric, very emotional. And by that, I mean, you care about the people that you're building for. It's not like, hey, I'm the big bad wolf, take it or leave it. You want to fix their wants and needs. You want to be there for them in a way that really creates that culture within the transaction. And so I just started finding the niche builders, and I saw that there was a very big void in the builders who were doing 50 to 100 houses a year. They would hire an agent. The agent would use their model home as like a agent training ground. And any buyer who came in there would get different information. They wouldn't know, what are the HOA fees? Where's the closest grocery store? Like when Sally Sue comes through the door, she's going to come through the door 4 or 5 times before she buys a house. And if she's getting different information each time, she's going to feel finicky and I don't know if I want to do this. So I was like, well, here's the need is it needs to be treated as just like these big box builders do. You need to have a model home. It needs to be staffed with 2 agents 7 days a week. It's open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5, Sunday from 1 to 5, and you own that project. And not only does that feed you your business, and you got to look at it like, hey, this builder is giving me 50 houses with an average price point of $500,000. This dude's trusting me with $25 million. I've got to be here and got to be present for it. And so I really kind of honed that in, brought in a couple developers, started doing it myself a little bit, and we've kind of grown it to, I mean, we've got like almost 1,200 lots coming out of the ground in the next 5 years.
Wow.
So, we've got a pretty strong pipeline, and the developers that we work with are salt of the earth dudes. Really, they're really good humans, and that's tough to find in our industry, of people who care about people over the dollar, because the dollar will come if you care about people. So we've just been very blessed, and I've been working on that for probably 7 years. And it's finally now hitting where I've got model homes and I've got things going. And so people think the development stuff's easy. It's not, and it takes a long time to get there. But once you get there, you kind of can get the train moving. But so I started doing that. And then, being born and raised in Pensacola, I told Nathan I wanted to open an office in Pensacola, because I was losing a bunch of market share. Because people are like, you don't live here anymore, TJ. I wish you lived over here so you could sell a house. I'm like, hold tight. I'll drive an hour and a half to go sell your house. I don't care. You know what I mean? And they're like, nah, you don't have a presence here. And I'm like, all right, well, let's fix that. So we opened up an office. And what's funny is we utilized what I thought was a gimmick at first when I joined EXP, which was the rev share side of things. And then I realized, holy crap, it's real money. And so we utilized our rev share to, in turn, buy an office in Pensacola. And now we've got agents over there. So we've got a total of, I think, 55 agents right now. We had 85, but by design kind of lowered that a little bit to be more intentional with each agent versus just being a massive conglomerate. So, when I started with Nathan, fast forward 3 years, opened up Pensacola office, started a development side. And then it got to the point where we almost had competing brands, because I had my own side of the development and stuff, where Nate and I were almost competing against each other. And it was like, this makes no sense. What are we doing here? So then we just said, hey, let's combine forces. And that was about 4.5 years ago. And at that point, we only had, I think, like 11 agents or so. And then obviously blossomed to where we are now. But it's been a fun ride, man. It's been a crazy ride. I've been through a lot of ups and downs in this industry, but very blessed to have a great business partner and really exceptional agents on our team.
That's awesome, TJ. What a great story. And again, congrats on your success. I did have a chance to talk to Nathan, so it's great to kind of see the other side. I will say the more fun side. You're way more fun to talk to.
You ain't the only one that said that.
Don't tell Nathan I said that. No, he was great. I'm just kidding. We had a good time. No, so that's super cool. So TJ, there's actually so many questions I'd love to ask you about, kind of a lot of portions of that. But let's start with, because a lot of agents that watch this and reach out to me are, I would say, either newer or, struggling to really get a good foothold. And then, they see people like you guys doing, 300 million, like these kind of astronomical numbers, right? That they can't picture themselves. So my first question on that for you is, what do you see? Because you guys have 55 agents. What do you see as kind of the main differences between the agents that make it, that succeed, and then the ones that don't and either have to leave the business or do something else?
Pick up the phone.
That's right.
Pick up the phone. So really, man, it really is phone. It's connections, like connecting with people and being intentional in that. And I get it. Like, we have big lead gen platforms, and I've not always wanted to be the guy that sits there and calls 100 cold leads that I'm like, man, I get the F you and why are you calling me and blah, blah, blah. I get it. That's not fun. That's a part of the business. You know what I mean? And if you want to build a pipeline, you can't be scared of that. You've got to just get in your groove and make those phone calls. And people think it has to be from a boom town or a sync or some lead gen. No, it doesn't. It has to all it has to do is be with your connections. And prime example, yesterday, I have a client that has been a dear friend of mine for years. He's invested with me on multiple different facets. And I've got him on some trips and stuff, but he doesn't care. He's in his late 70s. He's just wants to talk kind of dude. And so I was like, man, I haven't talked to Gary in a couple of weeks. Let me call this guy. So I call him. Next thing you know, we're shooting the shit. And he's like, hey, man, that lot that you had for me on Navarre Beach that you had listed for a while back? I said, yeah. And he was like, what do you think we can do with that? And I said, well, you're overpriced. You know that. And I'm like, we were running and gunning in the COVID times. I said, but right now where we were priced, you're $200,000 less than that. And I said, but you're a creative guy. I'm a creative guy. Terms matter. what if we did some owner financing options and said, hey, you'll do a 5% with 30-year AM, 5-year balloon, and let me throw it out there to some folks because it might make sense for somebody at the higher price to have the lower interest rate. Then they can convert it to a construction loan when they go after they get their loan together to go build, but they're not paying this ungodly amount of interest on probably an interest only loan that you can have go towards some of the principal. Let's throw that out there. And this lot's $1 million too. You know what I mean? And so he was like, I like it. And I was like, dude, like let's calculate what you're going to make on the interest over time. And somebody's going to probably pay you off before that. And dude, just by picking up that phone call, I'm putting it back on the market next week for $1.1 million. I got him to come down to $1.125 million. It was all because I just picked up the phone. That's it. And that's where it's like, if it's not a lead that you're calling that you've worked with, that's okay. Like call your buddies in Atlanta, in Texas, just to like they want to hear from you. Like people think, oh man, I'm going to be a burden. I'm going to be annoying. Dude, these are your people, man. Like they're going to most likely 99% of the time go, man, TJ, I'm so glad you called me. Dude, it's good to hear from you. Even if there's no business that comes from it, that's okay. But picking up the phone and being a connector is going to make the biggest difference. Our biggest producers in our marketplace, even when they go on vacation, 30 minutes a day, bang out a couple phone calls, make sure they're intentional on it, and they succeed. But the agents who just sit in the corner and go, man, I hope this comes to me, or man, I hope that person calls me one day, it ain't going to work that way, And my biggest pet peeve too is like, I mean, we sit with an average of anywhere from 80 to 100 listings. Anywhere from, $100,000 to 25 million.
Yep.
Nobody will sit open houses anymore. And I'm like, what are you doing? Nobody's walking in this office anymore. This ain't 1999. But they damn sure might walk into that model home or that open house just because, And for the most part, if they're walking into an open house or a model home, they know somebody's there that's going to try and sell them. But that connection may work. It may work. And I mean, we've had some agents pull off $3.5 million deals just because they took the time to sit there, And so take that time and be intentional. And you have to treat real estate like it's a career and a job. If you're not looking at this from 9 to 5 at a minimum, Monday through Saturday, to be frank with you, there's somebody out there outworking you ready to take your job every day of the week. So you got to get granular with it. You got to make the phone calls. That's what you got to do.
And TJ, I mean, like simple advice, right? Not easy, but simple advice that is so spot on. I think it's so interesting. I was talking to one of my business partners we have a virtual assistant staffing company. And he was like, man, we're having one of our best months ever. And I was like, what's the secret? And he goes, you know what? We call the leads. I was like, okay. You call them. That makes sense. He's like, we call them and then we call them again and then we keep calling them and we make sales. So it's fascinating to me. And then on the back end of what you said, the other fascinating thing to me about real estate agents is like real estate, the homes, that's our product. And yet people don't want to go sit open houses. They don't want to, see the houses. And I'm like, that dude, like if I was selling shoes, I would want to go where the shoes are being sold.
That's right. That's right.
So it's pretty crazy to me. And then, so TJ, in terms of, business setup, because I'm always interested in like, systems and leverage and things like that. Are you personally still in production or are you just doing kind of this higher level, development, putting things together like that?
I still produce, but I mean, I was doing in my heyday 60 to 70 transactions a year by myself. It's normally now 10 to 15, and then I hand out the rest to the team.
Got it.
I really enjoy watching people grow in this industry. And so, I kind of see who's doing what. And to be frank with you, the people who are picking up and making the phone calls and I see them putting in the effort are the people who get my sphere business that I hand off. But, I do have my certain clients that I'm like, nah, I can't let those go just in case.
Right.
And some of them I like to be very close to the chest. They're high net worth people that just don't want to be talked to except by me. They don't want the world knowing they're buying things or doing things.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'm still in production just because I love it. I don't have to be in production, but I do love doing what I do. But for the most part, I hand out my sphere of business to the team.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a good setup. And then in terms of like your business kind of leverage and systems, like what does your staff, your admin staff or people that you have, running the show look like for you?
So we've got a director of operations, and then we've got a director of sales that kind of runs the general real estate side. And then we have another director of sales that runs the new construction side. We've got an in-house listing coordinator because I need agents selling, not putting in data entry. We've got an in-house accountant. We've got an ISA. And then we have a transaction coordinator that is not in-house. They're called Alchemy Company, and they are absolutely exceptional. We've been working with them for, I think, 6-7 years now. And they're just extremely good. And then I have my own personal assistant that kind of handles some off the book stuff that I work through. And then I've got a section of what we have in the development world where we've also got I've got a partner that has basically a permit expediter, an entitlement side of the business. So we go find pieces of dirt, we see what they're zoned, we get them entitled. A lot of times we'll entitle them, get the development order fully in place. We'll flip that development order to one of our developers, or we'll keep it in house and do it ourselves. And so we've got that section of the world as well. And then we also own a title company. We have a joint venture with a company called Setco that we own a title company as well. So we can kind of control that environment just because the amount of transactions that we're.
Oh man, that's awesome, TJ. Very cool. Well, you have your hands in a lot of different things, and you run a lot of things. And so, one of the things that's kind of busy entrepreneurs, that I'll ask you that's always interesting to me is how do you strike a balance between, all these different things you're doing on the business side and then kind of your, personal family side of things?
That's tough. My wife's actually a real estate photographer as well. So,
okay.
We're kind of always in the mix together. I like to get out on the water, go fishing and kind of dismiss. We like to travel a lot. I still struggle with work-life balance, just being very frank. It's in real estate, once you kind of get to a certain part of your life in that career, it just becomes your life, you want to go have a cocktail and go hang out at a pool bar, in the Bahamas. And then next thing you know, you're like, hey, let's talk about this real estate around here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or somebody asks you what you do and then you tell them that. And then they're like, oh my God, I'm looking at buying a house or whatever. And then my wife's rolling her eyes like, here we go again,
Right.
So, I do struggle with it, but being on the water, being with my dogs, and spending some time traveling. I like to snowboard a lot. Basically getting out into nature is what kind of makes my brain stop ticking sometimes. But, for the most part, it is a part of my lifestyle. I really, truly love the art of real estate and just being a part of it. But being on the water is probably my biggest dismiss around here to be able to kind of make sure my phone doesn't work because I'm 40 miles offshore.
That's awesome, man. All right. So can we hit you up for a fishing trip when we're out there for 4th of July week?
Come on.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We did one of those deep sea ones because my parents are in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale area. So we've done that a couple of times and I love that. Except that there they do I call it like Beverly Hills fishing. You get on the boat and the guy does everything for you. He's like, here, hold the rod for a second. And then they do everything else. I'm like, this isn't really that fun.
Yeah.
I want to do all this stuff.
I had a cool little sport fisher. It was like a 46-foot pursuit that we just sold. I wish I didn't sell it. If I knew you were coming, we could have gone and ran out to the rigs or something and done the real fishing, not the famous fishing or whatever you want to call it. But I've got some other boats and stuff that we can all go catch some fish and have some fun with it.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I got we're all going, and then I have a 17-year-old, so I think he's bringing a couple of buddies. So we were going to do something like that to take the guys out, take the kids out.
Nice. Yeah,
so that'll be fun. That's awesome, man. Very, very cool. All right, so TJ, here's a fun $1 million question for you. So let's say I took you, moved you out here to Dallas, where I am. You don't really know anyone. Obviously, you have your phone, but you don't have an established business. How would you go about growing a business from scratch, like first 30, 60, 90 days? What would you do?
Probably go sit down with the top agents in the industry in that marketplace and buy them lunch or buy them dinner, or even if I got to bribe them with a gift card or whatever it may be, just to pick their brain and understand kind of the sections of the market that they're working in and why they're working there. And then kind of utilize my networking ability to reach out to different people that I may or may not know to kind of help build that. And then probably if I was going to end up working there, I probably would look for a team that I could be involved in to just kind of get my feet under me in the first year. And then I'd probably go do it myself after that. But you can't be prideful in this business. And the minute you think you know everything is the minute you're going to lose. And if you're going to go into a new market, I think that you need to be around experts in that market that are going to challenge you, that are going to ask you the right questions, that are going to put you in some tough situations that you have to, navigate your way through, because it's only going to create the visibility in the business and also understanding that marketplace. Because what my challenges are here, insurance, hurricanes, we build on sand, we don't build on clay, all these different things are totally different challenges in other markets. And if you think you can go into a different market and just be the pioneer there and you've got it handled, you're most likely going to fail. And I see it here all the time. Builders from Atlanta, builders from Houston coming in here, they're like, oh, I got it. I've been building for 20 years. I got this handled, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, welcome to Walton County, boy. Good luck. And it doesn't work that way. This is a very tough county. And there's some counties that are super easy, like where the municipalities are like, oh my gosh, growth, we'll take it. Come on, whatever you need. We'll give you permits quick and easy. But here, it ain't like that. And so, you've got to just really be a steward of the game, and you've got to really study a new market if you're going to go there. But my first 30 days would be connecting with the top producers. The next 30 days would be probably figuring out who I wanted to join. And then the next 30 days would be banging out probably 100 phone calls a day until I could start creating a little pipeline. And then after that, I would start probably paying for leads for a little bit until I could kind of get everything in order. And then I would probably start by myself and then start adding a team here and there.
So TJ, you're saying that you would actually call people and talk to people. What a cool concept, man.
That's right. That's right, man. That's what it's all it takes. Like, that's all it takes. Like, if you're a connector, you're trustworthy, and people like you and you do what's right, you can be successful in this business. You just got to pick up the phone. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. And, I find it so interesting. Like when I talk to top producers like you who are, do great, like I could pick you up and put you in any market. And within, 3 months, 6 months, a year, you would be kicking butt again, just as big, because you have those skills and you know what it takes to make it.
And I had a really successful real estate guy tell me one day, like, once you learn this craft, nobody can take it from you. And you can go park it in other places, but you're going to have to find the right connections to do that. And I found that so powerful that, if you study this game and you study it hard for a solid couple of years, no one can take that gift from you. And then you can, if you want to go do something else and have to fall back on real estate, you can do that because it's a craft you learn, But I think that there's a lot of people that see this glitz and glamour and they think that, oh, you're a real estate agent, you're going to make north of 6 figures any day of the week. That ain't the case. 74% of agents didn't sell one house last year. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy to me.
It's such a wild statistic, man, when I saw that.
It's crazy. But when tides turn, people just they just fold instead of adapting. And that's where they lose that momentum. And then once misery loves company. So once you do that, you start talking to other agents who are struggling. Well, then you feel better that you're struggling because they're struggling. No, you shouldn't feel that way. You should be like, well, sorry, you're struggling. Let me show you how I'm not struggling. And that's where, like Nathan's father is one of the biggest pioneers here in real estate. And he looked me dead in the eyes and he said, a down market doesn't scare me. A good market doesn't scare me. A flat market scares me. And so it's like, we're in a down market right now. We all know that. It's been a struggle these last 24 months. But instead of just being woe is me, why aren't you chasing the people that love down markets? Why aren't you finding those investors that are like, hey, let me pull out my wallet now that I can squeeze these buyers? Why don't you find those bank-owned properties that, somebody unfortunately lost and the bank needs some representation to get these deals done? There's so many different connections you can do. But once again, you got to pick up the phone and make those phone calls to create those connections. But even in this down market, this is a struggling year right now. And we're still in the first quarter as of today. And we're almost over 150 million in production right now, not because of woe is me, but because we've been picking up the phone and we've been grinding it out. And we're on pace to have the best year we've had in our entire existence in one of the shittiest years we've had in the last 15 in real estate, but sitting and crying and being around people who are saying the same things as you, like, oh, I'm not doing deals either. I'm not doing any business. Well, you're going to fall into the same trap. You got to find those people who are excited about getting up and getting to work every day and figuring out new structures and new ways to make deals happen and trying to study how owner financing can work to get deals done. You just got to keep pushing.
Yeah, and TJ, it's so cool. Like I find it consistent amongst people who are doing really well that they are having some of their best years because I think the gap between like the agents who are doing really well and the ones who aren't is just going to keep widening. There's people like you and Nathan and others that are taking advantage of what's going on and doing great business, and then like you said, the other ones who are kind of sulking and stuff like that. So again, congrats on that. I think it's awesome. And I think what you mentioned about, kind of community and being part of people who are doing really well is a great segue. And I wanted to go back to it earlier. You mentioned EXP. So I'll kind of go back to that. You said you guys really thrived under EXP. What do you think has been the biggest difference, or what has really allowed you to do so well at EXP versus some other brokerages?
Collaboration. I've never seen another company with so many top agents willing to share their secrets with each other. It's flabbergasting to me. Like it's like I was so used to being, in a world where people are like, don't look at what I'm doing. Hey, don't look at what I'm doing. Like this is my way. Don't follow me. And with EXP, like I remember I'm not a big event guy. I've never been that, but Nate got me to go to one. And so the first event we went to, it was in Dallas, and we ended up meeting, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's was one of the largest producers in La Jolla, California, and now he's one of the largest producers in Texas. I can't believe
Oh,
I'm
I was
drawing a
going to say
blank on his
Kyle
name.
Whistle, but he's not in Texas.
Yeah, no, that's California. But
Yeah.
we do a lot with Kyle Whistle, and our
Yeah.
we follow him a lot. Nathan and him are friends, and he definitely has helped us as well. But this guy, literally, we were shooting the shit. He asked what market we were in, and we told him, and he was like, "Tell me about your production." We told him, and he was like, "Wow, that's great." And he said, "What? Show me some of the stuff y'all do luxury wise." And we showed him, and he was like, "Oof." It's like, "That's y'all's luxury presentation?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That don't work, man. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Well, let me show you." And this dude literally gave Nathan a flash drive with all of his content that was editable for us to make ours. And he said, "This right here, this flash drive is worth about $65,000. Here you go." And I looked at Nathan. I'm like, "Did he just give us that? That's crazy." And he was like, "Man, like, the company's owned 50% by the agents. Like, if you're selling houses and making money and attracting new agents and building the company, he's making more money too." And so that was like, oh. And then next
Yeah.
thing you know, it was like Kyle Whistle, Veronica Figueroa, like all the Tina Call, like all these top agents that were like, "Yeah, we'll jump on a call with you guys. We'll tell you exactly what we're doing." And I'm like, that's crazy to me. And so that section of collaboration where that that sense of um, you know, posturing that agents have done in the past of like, "I'm the best, look at me," yada, yada, yada. Like that all seemed to kind of like fall to the wayside at some of these events that were just open books of like, "Here's my playbook, I'll show you mine." And I'm like, what? Like, this is awesome. So the word I would say that EXP has done for us that has really helped us grow our business in a quick way, but in an organized way, is collaboration. I mean, we've been able to collaborate with some of the best in the country.
Oh, it's fantastic, TJ. It's so cool. And I second that. I have a small team there as well. Although I'm focused on some other things, but it is really great. And even conversations like this, I think, are so amazing that we can have here at EXP. So that's awesome. Now, TJ, if someone watched kind of this part of the video, they think, "Man, TJ's got it all figured out. Everything's awesome. He has no challenges in his business ever," but I know that's for sure not true. So question for you is, what's a challenge or an obstacle that you might be working through in your business right now that maybe someone doesn't see on the surface?
It's really because I do a lot of the new construction development side, and so for us with our county, like it's just been extremely tough getting homes out of the ground, getting permits done, getting things in order in a way that we can pace at 150 to 200 homes a year, because we just are always in an uphill battle here. Like, just to get through planning, not even to get to permitting, is 3.5 months. So it's like and we're very upscale real estate town with a very small town vibe, especially in some of our technologies and the things that's in our market, our infrastructure. All of it is like 1999, and
Yeah.
you got real estate selling for 25 million on the beach here. And I'm like, how is this happening? So I would say my biggest challenge right now is like getting municipalities and our developers and everybody to work in conjunction with each other. I beat my head against the wall every single day. And I would say that the next biggest challenge right now is my investor market. Like, I mean, I've got like, I'd say 45, almost 100 lots in a section of the world that is straight investor driven, that I've thrown everything but the kitchen sink at it. And I'm used to selling anywhere from 48 houses a month there to now it's like, please let me just get one this month, please.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so when I've got investors who've got, 25 million just in land acquisition, plus another 50 million in horizontal infrastructure, plus another 10 million in vertical infrastructure, and I'm on a meeting with them once a week, and they're like, "What is happening here, dude?"
Right.
It's a tough pill to swallow when you've got to tell them, we're struggling,
Yeah.
and I mean, and we're spending a lot of money to get sales to try and make things happen. So, there's sometimes in this world that you spend money to make no money, but once you get a year down the road, 2 years down the road, you can catch yourself back up. And that's where a lot of people fail in the new construction world is they don't set themselves up for the times like this to be able to
Right.
power through it. And then they're sitting there and their notes getting called, or they're getting retraded or whatever it may be. And as the representation of that, it really makes me lose sleep at night when
Sure.
the deal isn't performing how I predicted that it would perform. But I also am very transparent before those deals get into place that, hey, this is what could happen. This is what I see happening right now, but this is what could happen. So if it does, don't say I didn't tell you about it. And this is the reserves that I think we need to have in place so that we can weather that 2-year storm. And
Sure.
so we fortunately have been very blessed to be able to do that. But when you're building houses, especially, some of my developers building houses to make 25% margins and they're down to like 4%,
Yeah.
it's like, and you're still got interest carry. It's not sexy at all. And it's really, really stressful. And that's probably my biggest issue right now is just some of that investor product just not moving.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that turns around for you here in the next, this year, next year, starts to go the right way.
Yep, it will. It will.
Yeah. It's always cyclical, right?
It is. And you just got to pivot, man. Like, and it's all about education. And so, houses that are $1 million that used to rent for 120 grand a year are now only doing 70 grand a year. And then you take your OpEx out of it. And it's like, I'm just paying for my insurance and my taxes at the moment. So now I'm like, all right, now let's talk about accelerated depreciation. Let's talk about cost segregation. Let's talk about how we can mitigate that tax burden to make up for the loss in income. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
not studying the game and educating yourself, there's so many agents when I go, well, let's talk to your client about doing a cost seg. They're like, what's a cost seg? I'm like,
Right.
okay, let's talk about this. You know what I mean? So it used to be sale, sale, sale. Now it's education, then comes the sale,
Yeah.
but you got to know it. You got to understand it. You got to understand how
Mm-hmm.
how people think to really hone in on the sales process. And so that's really what we've been doing is adapting our sales process to get people to understand that it's not just about rental income. It's about how to use that home as a tool in your financial portfolio.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And TJ, I mean, it's so great. I think talking to someone that's so plugged in and focused on always improving and learning and all that kind of stuff. Quick question for you on there is that something you think you were born with, or that you kind of adapted to or learned because you got in the business early, but you've picked up like so many of these amazing skills to be successful.
You know, I think that there's gifts that people are born with, but I think that work ethic is very important for all of that because with work ethic creates education. And I've had a job since I was 13 years old. I was paying, my light bill for my mom as a single mom when I was 14, working at Simon Eyes Car Wash. I like making money. I like feeling financially free and being able to do what I want. And so do I think I do have a little bit of a gift to just be able to, I'm not scared to talk to people, like I enjoy hearing their story, but I also think I outwork a lot of people. And I think that's where the gift gets stronger, is when you put yourself into these rooms that people are like, I didn't learn cost segregation processes just because I decided to Google it one day and study it. I learned it because I was sitting in a room with people who are way smarter than me that brought it up. And I'm like, huh, what is that? And then I just dove into it. And then it became something that I really wanted to study and learn, because it's a part of what we do here. And so, just putting yourself, like in Nathan's exceptional at it too, we're really good at being the dumbest ones in the room. Like, we're really good at being around really smart people that make us look really smart. So, that's where I would say our gift is really just putting yourself in a position to learn from the best, and having these conversations like what we're doing right now. There's so many people who won't take that phone call, or like, oh man, I don't have time to do that. And the funniest thing to me is when people are like, man, I'm just too busy. I'm like, you don't even know what busy is, man. Like, come on, don't say that. Like, don't say that. And so it's like these banters, these conversations that you have, where you start getting those little nuggets that, you write in your phone and you're like, man, I need to look that up. I got to figure out what that is. So I wouldn't say I have a gift. I would just say I work really hard, that then in turn created a gift.
Yeah, very, very true. Well, TJ, you've given us like so much value. It's so amazing in all different aspects, for new agents and experienced agents, how to grow their business and all that kind of stuff. What would be your last kind of parting words of advice for our young, budding, successful, future 7-figure real estate agents?
Don't give up, man. Like that's like when I first started, like I started at DR Horton. I got fired within the first 2 weeks because of something on my record that I supposedly didn't disclose. And I was so defeated because I got a job with a Fortune 500 company and blah, blah, blah. Well, I ended up being such an advocate for myself that I got rehired and ended up being one of their top producers in the Southeast region. I was 24 years old, making $300,000 a year. And then I got fired again because I was building a spec house that I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to do. At 24, you get fired in a job you've been making anywhere from $250 to $350 a year. You think your world's ending. And then I just go find another developer to work for. And then I decided I want to be a developer and I want to be in the real estate game and own my own team. And here we are, you know what I mean? And so if I would have given up that first time, who knows? I may be sitting in a cubicle with a temp job of some sort. But I'm here, doing very well for myself. Own multiple investment properties, have a beautiful wife, a beautiful house. Like, I'm very blessed, extremely blessed. But it's because I didn't give up, and because I cared about people, and I cared about people more than the dollar. And that's one thing I will say is, like, it's a scary world out there. It's a vicious world out there. But every single time that I've done what's right, even though I'm losing money or whatever it may be, it's always come back tenfold. So I'd say just never give up. If real estate's your dream and you want to be a successful real estate agent, push for it. Show up every single day, because you got to understand, somebody's willing to take your job every day. Every day there's a real estate agent out there trying to get your client, trying to get your listing, trying to take your lead. They're going to work hard. You have to beat them at that. And you really can. Like, I didn't come from anything. I had no blessings given to me. I have a dad who's a quadriplegic that I take care of. Wow. Like, everything isn't easy in my life. And it may look like glitz and glamour, but it's because I show up every day, work my butt off, and I care about people, and that's where you can get to the finish line.
Man, TJ, it's such great advice. And, I will tell you, I so appreciate you opening up, here and giving us your time. I know you're super busy. You got so much going on. And I know everyone watching this will really appreciate it as well. So thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure chatting with you. And I look forward to hooking up with you when we're down there in watercolor, 4th of July,
for sure,
for your birthday.
Dude. I can't wait. Yeah, no, that'd be great, man. I'd love to see you, Danny, and I appreciate your time. Thank you for inviting me on this. And hopefully we can do it again soon and do it in person.
Definitely. We will when we're out there. That sounds great. TJ, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much today.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Have a great day.
All right, all the best out there.